Wagaju Kaltar, Wagaju Fateo. Hi, welcome to Late Night Banter with me, Dale Singh. And checking out the banter, go to www.latenightbanter.com. The World Cup, it's upon us. And it's happening. Shocks galore already. Germany playing like England used to, and therefore having an early bath and going home. At least we're not going to lose on penalties to those guys this year. For any of the German viewers out there, I'm not gloating, just sharing the pain. We've had 50 odd years of it, so it's about time we pass around the pain a bit, so maybe you now know what it's like. Play acting, well, you know, we've not seen that many better pratfalls and maybe Del Boy going through a wine bar, but this World Cup's not failing to disappoint. Quality of the acting is great. There's got to be some awards there. Maybe if they sent people off for 5 minutes, I wouldn't allow them back on the pitch, we'd get less rolling around. And then we've got VAR, very ambiguous refereeing, as I call it. Handballs, pens, just go to the screen. And what is it with the dude? He goes running over there, it takes him about 5 minutes to go over there to look at a 20-inch monitor. It's about so big, yeah? And all he's do is look up at a 20-foot screen and he can get everything in colour and, you know, massive, so you can see whether there's contact or not. But, you know, they make a big song and dance about it. Ex-footballers, loads of them at the World Cup, mostly on the Match of the Day panel. The one thing they've all got in common is they're pretty much all bald. You know, you switch on there and you think you've actually got Right Said Fred doing the commentary and the punditry on there. And talking about ex-footballers, Maradona, God, a sweaty beach ball of a man. God, looks awful, awful. Really, but he did look quite deflated the other day at Argentina's performance. On the plus side, however, England are actually finally playing like a team, which is terrific. Now, okay, we've beaten some relatively mediocre opposition, Panama, Tunisia, let's not carry it away. I'm recording this before the Belgium game, by the way, so hopefully, fingers crossed, if they do Belgium, I will begin to believe and I'll dare to dream. And then we've got female pundits for the first time, women punditry and commentary on the World Cup. I think it's a pretty good thing. Particularly Patrice Evra doesn't, but then, you know, Patrice Evra wasn't exactly known at talking sense. Even the best of times, if you're watching an interview after a game with him. Anyway, hope you're watching the World Cup, hope you're enjoying it, hope you're enjoying the banter. And as I say, let banter commence. Hi, welcome to Late Night Banter with me, Dale Singh, and my special guest today is Chief Superintendent Raj Kholi. Now, Raj is actually the most senior police officer in the Met. I'm sure he's got lots of other sort of things he can be really proud of. We're going to find out about some of those in a short while. So let me welcome Raj. Raj, hi.
Tatskal. Well, thank you for the introduction. I have to say, though, that the Commissioner might have a view on me being the most senior police officer in the Met.
Not the Sikh, Sikh. Did I say Sikh? I missed that bit.
I'm the most senior Sikh officer in the Metropolitan Police.
Okay, there you go.
But thank you anyway.
No. Well, listen, that's just aspirational. I'm trying to get you up the ladder here. Yeah. That's why I thought if I put the plug in now, they're going to get this guy higher up. But he is the most senior ranking Sikh police officer as well. Other religions are available for police officers too. So Raj, listen, great talking to you. I guess one of the things I'll do before we get onto the police part of it, just wanted to have a quick chat with you about your background. Yeah. Now, I know we're sitting here today in Hounslow, but you kind of, your parents came from India back in the 60s and settled. Did they settle in Glasgow, or do they?
So I'll give you the potted history of the Kholi family.
Go on.
So Dad was from Firozpur in Punjab.
Okay.
Mum was from Nairobi in Kenya.
Okay.
And both my brothers are comedians.
Yeah, we'll get on to that in a minute.
And my middle brother tells a story how my parents met 20 minutes after they got married. So theirs was a proper arranged marriage. So kids, when you complain about arranged marriages, honestly, go back to the 60s. They were proper arranged marriages. So they
Lucky
met.
dip.
Indeed. And, so they got married in the 60s. Mum and Dad came to here in 1966. Mum was already expecting me.
Yeah.
I'm told she didn't declare me at customs as she entered the country, so I don't know whether I was illegally imported into Britain, but there you go.
Windrush.
Indeed. Let's not go there. August 1966 was when I made an appearance at West Middlesex Hospital, which is about 2.5, 3 miles from here. So I was born in Hounslow.
Oh, okay.
So there's a delicious irony. Some 50-something years later, come back to work in Hounslow.
Right.
So Dad got a teacher training course in a place called Dundee.
Right.
Which is not too far from Loch Ness, where you're doing the run.
I am, and that is, for those not familiar with it, that is Scotland.
Indeed. So Scotland's that bit. When my relatives in India, when I say I'm from Glasgow, they say, where is that in relation to Southall? So it's about 380 miles north of Southall.
Yeah.
And so, and Dad loved Scotland. And,
Right.
and Dad said, well, I've got a job here now, so you can
Yeah.
complete teacher training. We just bought a house in Hampton Court, and Mum wasn't going to move. And Dad said, but my job's up here. It became a bit of a sort of, well, you have to move up here. Can't you get a job in London? And I didn't know this till Mum told me fairly recently. The reason Mum moved was not just because obviously the kids, me and my two younger brothers, needed to be with their mum and dad.
Of course.
But Mum says that when she went to a school parents' evening, there was a thing. I kept a diary. Everyone had to keep a diary. What did you do over the weekend?
Right.
And I wrote, I love Saturdays because my dad comes home on a Saturday morning. And I hate Sundays because Dad goes back to Scotland and I don't see him for a week.
Right.
And my mum goes, that was the first point I realised what the impact it was having. Because in those days, air travel wasn't a thing.
There. Yeah.
And train travel was just too expensive. So Dad would get the overnight coach from Victoria, from Buchanan Street in Glasgow to Victoria,
Right.
then trek across London,
that'd take
pitch
ages.
up at about 9 or 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. And I distinctly remember this. But I remembered more when he left. And he'd leave at Sunday at about 5 o'clock and he'd go back to Glasgow, etc., etc. So Dad won that particular tug of war.
So you guys ended up in Glasgow. So the majority of your childhood was spent growing up in.
So I did all of my primary, secondary, and tertiary education in Glasgow.
Okay. So we'll just come on to that. So just going back to your parents. Now you talked about your dad being in teaching, and I believe your mother was involved in social work. But there was also a family business, a shop you went into later on.
Yeah. So Mum and Dad both professionals.
Okay.
Dad's a teacher, Mum's a social worker.
Yeah.
For whatever reasons, weren't necessarily progressing through in their jobs.
Okay.
You could talk about perhaps they're being biased against,
of course.
that BME people, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago. Dad had invested in buying a shop.
Yeah.
Mum ran that shop, worked physically and mentally incredibly hard.
Yeah.
7 days a week, with little time off for herself. Dad was still teaching. He bought a massive property in the West End, 10 rooms, let it out. Fast forward many, many years, he's got Mum and Dad have got a significant property business in Glasgow.
Brilliant.
So the shop's now been sold.
So let me go back to the shop. So because it actually resonates with me because I grew up. My parents had a shop too. And Mum's and Dad was doing one thing. Mum was running the shops, and Mums are brilliant when it came to shops. They knew what they were doing, and they raised us too. So God, no easy ride there. So did you end up doing Saturdays in the shop then, and did you get paid for it?
Well, actually, we used to go to the shop with Mum just to kind of help her sort of fold the newspapers so the delivery boy could come and deliver them. In those days, there were delivery boys.
Yeah.
And that kind of, and payment was a ham and cheese roll from the next door shop. They do the best ham and cheese rolls. Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So that was payment. But
you guys work cheap, I tell you. I would have demanded a lot more than the ham and cheese roll. Trust me.
Well, had I known. I think, and had been such a thing as minimum wage.
Well, yeah,
I might well have.
It's the north-south divide. See, I was southern, so we demanded more back there. You guys.
So but it was great fun.
Yeah.
But even at that stage, I realised how much Mum and Dad were working was to put us through education.
Yeah.
So all of us went to private schools. I went to a school called Hutchison Grammar School, and my brothers went to St Aloysius. Yeah. And that was all the money their parents made went into our education.
Sure. So just going onto Glasgow, obviously growing up in Glasgow now in the 70s and stuff. So I guess the thing is, what did you kind of like most about Glasgow, and what do you like the least about Glasgow?
I can't stand the weather. The weather is absolutely dreadful.
What is it?
Dreek. It's grey, and it's. But tell you what, the people are the friendliest.
Okay.
I mean, genuinely, you can on the underground here. If you sit on the underground, no one sits next to you.
That's just you.
To be fair, that is just me.
That's just him.
But in Glasgow,
Yeah.
they will just talk to you.
Yeah.
And you go into a bar in Glasgow, you'll sit down and you'll just start chatting to somebody.
Yeah.
And it's just and you chat for 2-3 hours and go away. Strangers that ships that passed in the night.
Yeah.
But had a great time. So Glasgow is very, very friendly.
But and I guess when you were growing up in the 70s, though, like a lot of cities, be it sort of Birmingham, even a bit to London and Manchester and so on, Glasgow, there was obviously quite a lot of deprivation and stuff around the time.
Glasgow is very, very deprived as a city. Massively so. In fact, the street we first moved into, called Seymour Street, was falling down.
Right.
The first place we stayed in was one bedroom that we all kind of slept in, 5 of us. And that place was falling down, absolutely falling down. It's been completely regenerated. It's a completely different city now.
So do you go back there much
I
these
go
days?
back at least a couple of times, at least once every 2 months.
Okay.
So parents are getting on a little bit.
Your parents still up?
Yeah. So mum and dad are up there, and I'll get my daily phone call from dad reminding me that that he's my dad and that I should ring him up occasionally, and so I do go up there whenever I can. So I've already in 2018 been up 3 times.
Oh, well, okay.
I'd go up every month if I could, but it's just not practical.
And obviously, a massive change now, as you rightly say. It's kind of gone. It's been a cultural city. It's got a lot more investment in there, and there's a lot of business there, which maybe wasn't there back in the 70s when you were growing up. So it's good. So we touched on your education, and you went to Hutchison Grammar, or Hutchie, I believe, as it's called affectionately, but it wasn't necessarily a great time for you, based on what I'm understanding, because you were kind of the only Sikh or turbaned child there.
So I was, and there is some online debate because other people say that there was another Sikh kid that went to school, but not during my time.
Okay.
I think I'd spot another bloke with a turban.
Yeah, there's got some giveaways there.
I am now a detective. I think I would have had those Sherlock Holmes type skills back then.
Yeah.
I was the only bloke with a turban.
Right.
And there was probably 3 or 4 other people from sort of India or Pakistani sort of heritage. Yeah. 2 of whom were women, or girls as they were then. They were sort of 30. Who I never spoke to, because of course the moment I spoke to them, we were now getting married, because of course that's what people thought. So my bug used to get knocked off on a fairly regular basis. Was bullied. And it was pretty difficult. Never told my parents, because I knew that how much sacrifice they were making for us to go to school. And even at the age of 13, I knew, why sort of layer upon them burden that upon them.
And what about the staff? Were they aware of it, or did you not bring that to their attention, or
didn't bring it to their attention because you kind of just got on with it. Just sort of part and parcel of growing up. Of course, you don't know any better.
Yeah.
You just sort of get on with it. And my mum always used to say to me, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Okay. So, and I'm a big fan of that. That saying, that you turn it around, and I think that's why I'm a police officer now, amongst many other reasons why.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm a police officer that's got a particular interest in mentoring and supporting, coaching young people, getting through the really difficult teenage years, because I was there myself. I know what it's like, and I think that's why I can relate to young people.
And the bullying, I guess, was because you were different, because you stood out, because you maybe didn't fit certain clique of kind of people and so on. I mean, I think I've encountered that, but probably to a lesser extent, because when I went to school, there were 3 or so of us people in there. They were actually myself and my 2 siblings. So we, and I had an older brother. So I must admit he was a big chap. So it deflected the bullies. I developed a defence mechanism, which was humour. Some would call it rubbish, but it was my way of trying to. I wasn't big enough to fight back, so it was a case of trying to put people down by a smart comment or something. So did you find a mechanism of doing that?
I didn't. Well, I was going to say I didn't develop a sense of humour till much later on. I think the jury's out as to whether I actually have a sense of humour.
It happened at all, or maybe the gene skipped you and just went to your brothers.
Well, no. Actually, I would argue that.
Go on then.
That they learned
everything from you,
me, of course.
Oh.
I was absolutely the person.
You were the mentor.
Set the trend. I broke through those glass ceilings.
Literally with your head by the sound of it.
I know. And I always used to say to them, they would kind of, I wouldn't say learn from me, but we we always used to have a really close relationship. The three of us, we were like the Three Musketeers.
Okay.
We had great fun together.
Yeah.
But I was painfully shy at school. I really didn't speak to anybody. I was probably more part of the geek squad than anything else. But interestingly, about 3 years ago, we had our school reunion. Something like the 35th anniversary of leaving school, or whatever it was. And I walked into that reunion with a bit of trepidation. It was at the old school. And as the taxi dropped me outside, I said, can you just carry on for another 300 yards? I'm not sure what to enter this school.
Really?
This is like a 49-year-old man at this point.
Right.
And it still takes you right back. But I met some quite incredible people and realised actually the bullies were really only 5 or 6 people.
Right. Were they there on the day?
No. Which is the beauty of it. And of course, when I started to reminisce about that side of school life, so many of my friends said, yeah, they were bleep, bleep, bleep.
Yeah.
And I thought, I didn't realise. And the other bit I thought was that I was the most visible person possible.
Okay.
So I was this height, half my weight,
right,
with a buggery that was probably 3 times the
size of your head. Yeah.
You couldn't miss me.
So just going back, so obviously the bullies didn't turn up. They're probably sort of in a gutter somewhere with a bottle of Buckfast in their hands. We hope, making the most of their lives.
You did say Buckfast.
I said right? Buckfast. Okay, I might.
It's your Peterborough accent.
Bucky, come on, you guys know what Buckfast is. In Glasgow they do. Maybe down here they don't.
A good glass of Merlot for me, thank you very much.
Oh, okay.
I'm a little bit more cultured than you, Del.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about the bullies now. These guys, if they're in a gutter somewhere, Buckfast is the drink of the day, I believe.
I think it was White Thunder back then.
White Lightning, White Thunder, whatever. Yeah, exactly. There
Thunder,
you go.
So some sort of
your
vaguely cider-based drink.
Vaguely cider-based, yeah, that's it. So look, because of the bullying that you went through, and you say these days you do quite a lot of going into schools talking to other children about bullying, because in a way, like you say, this actually impacted on you, and now you're paying it forward by letting people know. Is that a conversation you had to have with your own kids as well?
Oh yeah, but I think we have that conversation anyway. I think, funnily enough, just before today's interview, I was talking to a woman who is part of an organisation called Brilliant Parents.
Okay.
And we talk about this whole thing about how parents connect with their children.
Okay.
And I would have that conversation. I had the whole conversation, the birds and bees conversation. Obviously, that's a given. Because they went to quite a diverse school, then bullying based on race or religion was much less likely. So we got a very open relationship with our children.
Okay, that's good.
It's a friendly relationship. I would never describe myself as a friend because I don't think you can be friends with your kids.
No.
You can be friendly. For me, I can't be their friend. We've got a very open, friendly relationship.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you make that point, because I think there's new age of parenting where some people think, I want to be your mate. By being your mate, you kind of almost lose that bit of respect. I mean, you don't have to be draconian about the whole thing, because I still remember, we will always refer to my late father as Daddy G, putting that little word at the end that just symbolises respect, rather than these days kids, hello Mark, how you doing? That's Dad for you. But I don't subscribe to that. And talking about people that have got brilliant parents, my kids will probably say, Dad, you should start off a rubbish parents kind of sort of thing. So, but and then, with respect to your brothers, you say you guys were really close and so on. So just touching on your brothers, so there's Hardeep and Sanjeev.
Yep.
Now, I obviously both have been fairly prolific on TV. I think these days we'll probably see a little more of Sanjeev on Still Game, which is brilliant. It's brilliant. It is one of my favourite programmes. So Naveed is really good. I feel. I think as long-suffering wife. I mean, some of that commentary on there, we can't repeat it. This is a Sikh channel, but it's fun. Yeah. And so obviously, I said they went into that media and into that sort of area of things. Do you think because of your schooling, maybe, and the fact that you were a little more introverted, because comedians tend to be extroverts, do you think that might have been the reason you didn't go in that direction? Well,
actually, there's a school of thought that the greatest comics were very introverted in their personal lives.
Well, yeah, people like Andy Kaufman and some of these guys, but to start with they were, but they kind of like, I don't know, they sort of seem to then...
So me and in personality types, me and Sanjeev are very similar.
Okay.
So Sanjeev was much more shy than I was. I mean, here is a boy that could have done any degree that he wanted. He got A stars in every single exam he sat. He won. He was a Sikh boy that went to Catholic school, and I remember my parents getting a phone call saying, your son's won first prize in religious studies. Do you mind if you give it to somebody who's Catholic? Because it just looks a wee bit embarrassing. Mum and Dad's fine. That's fine, because actually he won award after award after award. Started medicine, chucked it after 3 months, couldn't stand it. Got a first-class honours degree in maths. And then a very good friend of mine, Uzma Mir, who still works in the media business, rang me up and said, what's Sanjeev up to? Because she'd met Sanjeev once or twice, and she said, I'm starting this radio programme. And lo and behold, he started this radio programme. If you said to anybody Sanjeev would be a star of media and write comedy, they would have dragged you off to the local hospital, say, check this person out there, I think they're losing it. And actually Sanjeev told me a few years ago that how he kind of ended up in this business was that as a university student, I would take Sanjeev everywhere with me, even though he was like 6 years younger.
Right.
Not quite 6 years, about 5 years younger, give or take. And that's quite a big age gap when you're a teenager. You know, the age gap between a 13 and 18-year-old is much, much bigger than a 40 and a 45-year-old.
Of course it is, yeah.
But I used to take Sanjeev with me everywhere, and Sanjeev said I had to learn to sink or swim.
Okay.
And he used to swim in that environment. So he was socialising with people much, much older, and he had to have the banter. He had to have the quick wit and the repartee, you know, of much older people. And in fact, Uzma, who was my peer, remembered him from a party she had that I brought him to.
Oh, okay.
Now, of course, most if any of your viewership are 18 or 19, probably wouldn't take their 13-year-old brother or sister to a party. Not where students are.
No.
Because it's like not cool. But for me, it was completely natural.
And then the worst part of it is you actually don't get remembered, but your younger brother does. By the way, thanks for coming to the party. How's your kid brother doing? What's that all about?
No, worse than that is I don't even get 10% of the cut that an agent would get.
Oh, right.
I don't even get a finder's fee.
There's the Asian Indian ethic coming out. What's in it for me?
Absolutely. But, you know, both Sanjeev and Hardy. I mean, Hardy, you know, his personality type was different. I think he was always destined to be in that. You know, he's got an incredible intelligence. Very, very articulate. He's
sort of a lot more journalistic in terms of it's not straight comedy. There's actually social commentary when you listen.
There's a social commentary. He's got very incisive views around politics.
He's definitely more political.
They're both very good writers, but Hardeep will write from a political aspect, and he will bring kind of socio-economic bent into his writing.
Right.
Sanjeev's more about observational comedy.
I'm going to stop you talking about these guys because at some point I'm going to want to talk to them. So I'm going to contact them through him through their big bro.
10%.
10%. Look, we'll negotiate, and we'll start at 5, and we'll stop at 7. So that's good. Now, you talked about joining the police for a number of reasons, and somewhere, and again, this could be just I made it up or it was on the internet, sort of like an urban myth, is that your mum bought you a police uniform as a kid. Did that influence you? It is.
It's absolutely, yeah. It's more like a turban myth. But anyway, we'll walk past that. But that's why Sanjeev and Hardy were the comics in my family, not me. So there's a number of reasons why I joined the police. First and foremost, my dad's brother, my chacha, and my dad's brother-in-law, both officers in the Indian Army.
Okay.
And so I had that real feel for wanting to do some sort of uniform service.
Okay.
And then, you know, the whole thing about seva and all the kind of, there was something in me that I didn't understand at the time.
Okay.
I wanted to do something. So I was gonna serve the public in some capacity. But
not at McDonald's, would you like fries with that? That's serving the public.
No.
Go on.
Well, yeah, that's true actually, yeah. I've got a joke about McDonald's, but I probably shouldn't crack it.
No. We're looking for sponsorship.
But when I was about 4 or 5, and the original Doctor Who was Peter Cushing.
It was. And who's, well, actually, that was on the films.
Yeah, in the films.
In the films.
Yeah, one of the original Doctors.
Because it's William Hartnell, Patrick Troughton, John Pertwee.
We're giving away our age.
I'm giving my mind, but go on.
And if you remember, Peter Cushing's assistant was Roy Castle.
It was, yeah.
Who was a police officer.
I wasn't really.
And so, and I think that's kind of how they met, because he tried to get into the police box, which is the TARDIS.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sitting there in my policeman's uniform, watching, literally with the whistle and the whole shebang.
Yeah.
Watching Roy Castle and Doctor Who saving the world and all that.
In a police box.
You fast forward 21 years, and Mum says to me, "Why do you want to be a police officer?" I'm thinking, Mum, it's kind of your fault. And so it was those two things that kind of that really, you know, being quite, you know, a really young and influential age of watching that. And also then the story of Sikhism, you know, all the stories of Guru Gobind Singh, Guru Nanak, you know, the Sikh warriors, the, you know, all up into and including the fight for Indian independence. You hear all these amazing stories, and you cannot help but be inspired.
I mean, I guess we've got to be really, really grateful to your mum that she didn't buy you a pirate costume instead, because, you know, a pirate or a cowboy, because you could have gone completely the other way.
Yeah, cowboys and Indians.
Well, there is.
I do at fancy dress parties go as a pirate.
But
Dale, the worst thing is, I actually own all the clothes I wear, so it's not like I have to hire it.
Yeah, well.
So rather sadly, if you put some of my wardrobe together, I do look like a pirate.
Well, there's a story here. This is one of my own. I was in New Orleans on Bourbon Street, which is a fabulous street, and
I'd love to go to New Orleans.
It is one.
Is it everything?
It's more. It's my favourite place in the world. But anyway, at Bourbon Street late night, there's a lot of drink going on. I had a black buttercup bandana on and my beard, obviously. I take it with me everywhere. And I was, I know, I can't leave home without it.
A bit weird,
better than American Express. So I was standing outside this particular bar, and this lady comes to me, and she goes, "What's it like in there?" I said, "Well, I don't know," because my friend had just gone in to use a loo. So I was like, "I don't know." And she looked at me, she goes, "Well, you're not very good." I said, "What do you mean I'm not very good?" She goes, "You're not very helpful." I said, "Well, what do you think, I'm a tourist guide?" And she goes, "Well, didn't you not work for this place?" I said, "What would make you think I work for this place?" And she said, "That." She pointed up. I looked at the sign, and it said Blackbeard's Bar, and there was basically a big sign of a guy with a black beard and a bandana on, and I was standing right underneath it, so she thought I was obviously part and parcel of the thing. So it's the one time we get away with actually having a beard, the black bandana and so on.
So occasionally, you know, when I play football, I wear a pirate's bandana. And you've seen the film Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yeah, of course we have, Jack Sparrow.
I looked like Johnny Depp, except completely different.
Well, just the head part is different.
Completely different.
That's great. So look,
I look more like Johnny Vegas, but that's another story.
So obviously, with your brothers being in comedy, and that gene is there. I was going to say I thought it skipped, but it hadn't. It's obviously there, and you've mentored them. But have you ever had any desire to sort of, you know, go into that sort of media sort of thing, or not, or is the police? Is policing too much fun?
No, policing's brilliant. I love policing. Do I have a desire to do it? No, but I have a comfortableness in doing this kind of stuff.
Okay.
So I think there's that comfortableness of just being able to converse on camera or on radio. So I wouldn't say it's a skill, but I think it's just something that some people
being media savvy
are happy to do.
Yeah.
Part of my job will often involve just having to give a briefing at the drop of a hat. So the number of times when we were critical incident, I've got to stand up in front of 100, 200, 300 cops and say, right, this is what we're about to do. Number of times I turn up at events and say, "Oh, can you talk for 15 minutes?" Completely unprepared.
Yeah.
But you know, you're in the game yourself.
Yeah, of course.
And you know, so if I was to say to you, right, Del, come and speak 15 minutes after lunch, give an after lunch speak, you could do it because because you know, so you kind of grow those skills. But as to actually doing it, I'm not sure. I love music.
Oh, good. We'll get on to that in a minute. We'll get on to that in a minute.
You know, I guess I fancy myself as a proper DJ on the radio,
okay,
playing the tunes that I think that the public
should be listening to,
have criminally not been exposed to.
I love this guy. I think that's great. We're going to talk about that criminality in music. That's remarkable. So
let's not talk about One Direction.
No Direction.
Indeed.
Actually, I did like one of their songs, and I don't execute me for that. So, but
which song?
Story of My Life. But I actually heard it. I didn't know who was singing it. I thought this was quite good, and then my daughter told me who it was, and I was like, okay, actually, you know what? That's a fair cop. Can I say fair cop? I can say fair cop. By the way, did you? Because your parents running the shop and so on, you never had to go and sort of bust them selling alcohol pops to kids and stuff.
We were a dry shop. We didn't.
You're dry. Are you okay? Okay.
A bit of Class A was fine.
Class A was fine.
Absolutely not.
So you're in Glasgow, going back to your police career, but I believe because you're obviously in Glasgow, but you joined the Met. Is it because that you had the recruitment guys from the Met came up to Scotland to do that? Is that
so? So what happened was I saw an advert looking for people to join the police service on the accelerated promotion scheme.
Oh, okay.
And that's a national scheme. So what you do, you apply to the scheme. And then you apply to the force you want to go to.
Right.
So I, by some complete fluke of nature, got onto the scheme.
Right.
And they said, what force do you want to join? Now, where the interviews were held was in London.
Okay.
And there were Met officers there, and they said, right, brilliant, you're on the scheme, right, here are some books to read and stuff to prepare for the next stage of the scheme. Right. Because you had an initial interview and a 3-day assessment. And they really helped me prepare for the 3-day assessment. I went to Pitt Street in Glasgow, which is the headquarters, and wandered into their careers office, and this really nice but grizzled old cop said, I was going to give a Glasgow accent, but my Glasgow accent sounds like I'm more from Birmingham than from the West End. And he said to me, you don't want to join the Accelerated Promotion Scheme, just join us as a normal cop. And I thought, here are the Met telling me how to prepare good and given sport, and my Glasgow counterparts don't think I can get on it.
Just get on the beat, yeah.
So I got onto it, got offered a job with a Met, and then there's a now sadly deceased, passed away, superintendent called Donald MacDonald. That was his real name, Donald MacDonald.
I've heard that before.
And
go on.
he knew my mum because my mum used to work in the CRE, Campaign for Racial Equality, and CRC, Community Relations Council, and so he knew her through that. And he turned up at our house. I said, I heard Raj got into the police. We'll get him a starting date on Monday, and this was on the Wednesday. So desperate they were to have me. Right. And Mum said, well, what about it? I said, well, actually, I've kind of made my decision. It's only fair. I'm nothing if I'm not loyal. Right. And the organisation that helped me get onto this fast-track scheme, I was going to at least give 5 or 10 years to, as it is. I've given them 25 years, so half my life.
So when you actually came to London, you started in the Met. Did you have the Glasgow accent, and did you get any flack for actually having?
I got the Glasgow accent. I was talk of Hayes Town. Right. Hayes was my first posting, to the point that the local newspaper did an article about me. Right. Saying, here's Raj. Don't be confused. He wears a turban, but he's got a Glasgow accent.
But it comes with subtitles.
Well, actually, and my accent's quite soft. Right. If you speak to my nephews and nieces in Glasgow, even I can't understand what they're saying half the time.
I must admit, it's bizarre. I mean, because I did go to Glasgow, there's a family function there, and when you see somebody with a turban or a pug speaking in an accent that's really thick Scottish Glaswegian, as a southerner, I thought it's funny. But then conversely, they listening to me thought, what a strange bloke this guy is. He speaks weird too.
Yeah, well, I was really used to people with bugs and brown skin talking with an English accent because I was born here, and my cousins were all in Hounslow, so I was down here every year. I thought the Treaty Centre, which is just over there, was the fashion centre of the universe. For me, London was it. Yeah. But I'd come to London with a Glasgow accent, and everyone wanted to talk to me. Everyone loved the accent. Yeah. But I'm like yourself. If I see an Asian face, the Geordie or an Irish accent, I do stop and just think that's fantastic.
You do. There's a little bit of a snigger. It's like, but at the same time, you do. I do think. Hang on, they probably think the same of me. So fair play to them there. Now, around as well as being here in Hounslow and so on, in Hayes to Hounslow, but you also were in the area around Camden, and I know at that time when Amy Winehouse died.
So my career has taken me all over West and Northwest London. Right. And I was superintendent when I was doing John Sutherland, my colleague, a favour. It was his on-call week. Okay. And he said, do you mind just being on call for me on that day? Right. And then the phone call came from one of my cops and said, you're going to want to know about this. And Amy Winehouse has passed away. And I thought, okay, well, I mean, at the end of the day, a sudden death is a sudden death. Yeah. We would investigate it because of her age and all that. But I knew as I was sitting in my semi-detached house in Eastcote, thinking, I think I might go in for this one. This one, right. And I got a very, very small taste of what it's like to sit and pass a bank of cameras, and there were dozens of cameras.
The world media was pretty much there in Camden.
And so I drafted a statement. But at the end of it, I went off script because I kind of wanted to say, look, can you just give the parents, the family and friends some peace and quiet? Yeah. But I felt a bit like King Canute trying to stop the waves. You know what those tabloid people press are going to do. Yeah. They're going to go for speculation, all that kind of business. And I said, look, can you just kind of give them a bit of peace and quiet? You'll create a space where people can leave flowers and all that kind of stuff. So it was tragic in as much as I didn't know Amy Winehouse.
Did you know much of her music? Had you listened to
No, music, okay. But I didn't know as a person.
Okay.
But, you know, I felt for her family because it was a loss.
Yeah.
And I felt that there were tens of thousands of fans in Britain, hundreds of thousands of fans across the world, for whom that was a bereavement.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? And so it was very, very, very sad. So yeah, that was, you know, first time I'd done a live TV interview.
Yeah, I do remember watching. I do remember watching that. Actually, sort of saying to Mum, "There's a Uppener," you know, we say Uppener. Yeah. There's Uppener here, and it's talking about Amy Winehouse. At which point my mum said, "Amy who?" Yeah. And so you expect that, so that's fine.
It's pronounced Amy.
Amy Whitehouse.
Amajit Winehouse.
Whitehouse. Our Punjabi is worse than his Glaswegian accent. So look,
I can barely speak English. Don't even ask me to speak
Punjabi. Yeah. So if we fast forward to today, obviously crime in London. I mean, sadly, there is this huge amount of knife crime that's happening right now in the city. You know, the mayor and lots of people, and a guy over the other side of the pond has even told people that London is just awash with rivers of blood. You know, do you see much of that, and is it attributable to things like, I mean, people speculate about, you know, it's to do with people's gang-related postcodes, social medias, maybe got an impact on it, drill music, if you know what drill music is involved in this. What is your take on why this thing is all of a sudden, you know,
it's all of the above.
Right.
So for me, large chunks of what's happening is based on business deals that have gone wrong.
Okay.
So selling drugs
I was just about to say,
is a business,
okay.
You know, whether we like it or not. Selling drugs is a business, and if someone else is impacting on your business, one of the ways of dealing it is through violence. So there's that element of it. And I can kind of understand the motivation for that, kind of. You know, you can understand what might drive that. I don't mean it's a good thing.
No.
But you can kind of say, well, I understand. What I don't understand is you live in TW3, I live in NW6.
Yeah.
I hate anyone in TW. I'm going to stab you for no reason.
Right.
For no reason whatsoever. And they are much more difficult issues to police out because you can police out drug dealing. So we did a massive undercover operation in Hounslow, a year long, took out 26 drug dealers, collapsed the drug market in a certain part of Hounslow.
Right.
That's easily done. But how do you police out people that post stuff on social media and within minutes go round and attack them because they feel disrespected? So social media does play a part. So back in the days when, you know, when I was at school, there's a particular school that we hated, no reason. But they happened to be another school.
It was a rivalry sort of thing.
There's a rivalry, there's tribalism that I think we are still animals. We still hunt in packs.
But I think back in that day, it was people would meet up for a fight and somebody would get a black eye or somebody would. But nowadays, unfortunately,
well, back in those days, if you wanted to meet up for a fight, you had to queue up for the telephone in the hallway, and with this brilliant little telephone seat with a little thing for the yellow pages, and you sit down and with a really fancy trim phone that
it's going to be a fight.
And so now, of course, if I wanted to have a fight with you now, pick up my phone, I'll send you a text.
Yeah.
Job done. So, and then of course the whole thing on Instagram or whatever social sites there are. You know, and I'm going to say, oh, that Dell, he's this, that, and the other, and his kids are this, that, and the other. You're going to get really upset because you're going to see it online. Yeah. You're going to have a go. That's a really difficult bit. And so, on one level, I think there's the drug dealing is driving some of this stuff. On the other level, there's this kind of thing about whatever their frustrations are. You know, I've heard some people say that if you brought back national service, you might get rid of some of that aggression, because there's something about young men of a certain age who have got a load of chemicals in their body, you know, and they just need to get it out.
But I mean, again, getting rid. The thing is, if you look at it, you know, because I've heard that argument about national service. I've heard the argument about youth clubs, because back in the day we had youth clubs and people. But, you know, these days, if you open a youth club, people would probably turn up there, the drug dealers would turn up there and probably get the young kids to want to sell their drugs. You know.
Yeah, well, and the whole knife crime debate is interesting because people think it's a recent phenomenon. And I've heard and seen some media reports that attribute it to certain communities. And yes, if we're absolutely honest, there are certain communities that are absolutely blighted by it. But it wasn't the black community that were stabbing each other on Brighton Beach in the 50s and 60s.
No, it wasn't.
Or whenever it was.
Mods and rockers, yeah.
The mods and rockers of the 70s and 80s weren't black, they were white. The football hooligans of the 90s and the noughties predominantly were white. Yeah. So this is not about race or colour.
Yeah.
This is just about where society has taken certain groups. And unfortunately, in most cases, men that are perpetrating the violence. We're now seeing young women getting involved, not necessarily in the violent act itself, but they call them honey traps.
Right.
You know, a girl will ring you up, come on, Del, meet for a drink at McDonald's, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. You pitch up.
And a lot of guys jump.
So, you know, the whole so young women are being attracted into that, carrying weapons and guns on behalf of their boyfriends.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
Yeah, and I think the fact that there's this huge amount of money to be made out of it, particularly with the drugs. I mean, to quote, I think it's a line from Kanye West. He talks a lot of nonsense, but occasionally he comes out with a line. I think it's a line there. I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. You know, and that kind of is. It's a business for a lot of people, and that's why they're very protective about it. So just, I mean, with what's going on in the country around sort of the cuts, the austerity and so on, I mean, that's obviously had to affect policing in some way in terms of the number of feet on the street, you know, how you do that. I mean, have you seen the downside of that?
Well, I mean, there was a really interesting panorama-type documentary a couple of days back which talks about the impact of the cuts. If I was to take 25% out of your business, it's going to affect your business. Let's not forget that where we are in 2018 is as a direct result of where we were in 2008-ish. You know, we talk about the worldwide credit crunch. So, you know, estate agents in America selling houses to people who couldn't afford them causes the huge collapse. So there is not the money that you used to have. The police service, like any other public service, needed to be efficient. You pay my wages, I've got to spend it diligently, and perhaps we were not spending as effectively and as efficiently as we might do. But it's gone to the other extreme where you take 25% of the business, things have got to change. Do I think having more police will make a difference? Of course it would. Yeah, absolutely would. But equally, there are, you know, we've got to think differently, got to be a bit less risk averse, and think more creative about how we might want to police things. I actually understand that policing is for the whole society. It's not for the men and women that wear blue. It's for the whole society.
It's interesting you say, so I pay your wages. So, you know, I'm thinking, because I pay your wages, I would like to have a say in, you know, basically the stuff that you guys buy. And I think I can get you a better deal on things the police need. So, you know, for example, you guys, you know, handcuffs, right? I mean, you know, austerity, you can get these really cheaply.
What really worries me is that you possess those. And I'm not even going to ask. I'm not even going to ask.
You don't even know what my wife thought when these arrived from Amazon. And look, you know, instead of CS spray, just use this. You know, if you come across a 13-year-old who sprayed themselves with this, you ain't going to go anywhere near them.
Was that named after you?
What?
It's called Dark Temptation.
Hang on, come on, I'm not that dark.
Next, please.
Fair skin temptation. No, there's nothing else. There's nothing else in there. I have actually got a taser, but no, I'm not going to do that here. But no, I mean, you know, austerity means that we're going to have to end up, you know, your Ann Summers cuffs will be coming out and so on pretty soon.
There's definitely going to be, there's going to be some mileage in that actually. I might.
The Vice Squad could take it for Vice.
Well, but if you believe the advertising, and of course other deodorants are available.
Yeah, of course.
As a man, if I was to squirt that, I'll be irresistible to women. I'm irresistible to my wife, and that's about it. So.
Okay, I'm going to keep that in that case. I might try that for my wife.
Good luck with that.
You can have those. So anyway, if there's people watching right now who are thinking, you know,
there's no people watching. Honestly, they switched off like 25 minutes ago.
Well, 30 minutes ago. So if there are people who are still there and have got a desire to join the police force, you know, this guy's a great advert for it. So what? You know, how do people go about sort of doing that? And is there more of a fast track available for, let's say, people of Asian backgrounds, Sikh backgrounds?
Okay, so a number of ways to join. Go to the website and see what's available. If you think you've got the skills and the experience to go fast entry, fast track to inspector, go through that route. If you got If you're a little bit older, maybe sort of in your 30s, and you've got a significant corporate history, then direct entry to superintendent.
Okay.
And we've got some really successful people that have come straight in as superintendents, or join through the sort of traditional route of being a constable and working your way up. There are a number of routes to come into the organisation. Honestly, ladies and gents, it's a fantastic career. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I think I would do it all over again.
Okay, brilliant.
You know, in a heartbeat, do it all over again.
Now, obviously, the police have gone through a lot of change. I mean, this year celebration is the wrong word, but we marked 25 years since the death of Stephen Lawrence. Yep. Obviously, there's some fairly damning reports after the Stephen Lawrence death in terms of the police, what was back then fairly institutional racism, I think is the words that were used. Obviously, things have moved on and changed. Have they moved on totally, or is there still room for improvement in your view around that?
Well, there's always room for improvement. I think, you know, if any organisation thinks that they're perfect, then that's their first
they're kidding
imperfection.
Themselves. Right.
There's always room for improvement. You know, I spent long and hard. I'm more of an advocate of the concept of subconscious bias as opposed to institutional racism. If I was to say to you, Del, your organisation is institutionally racist, that puts you on the defensive.
Yeah.
And that's not helpful when someone's defending themselves. They can't think creatively and what that might mean. If I said, actually, here's the intelligence that tells me that your company displays some sort of subconscious bias.
Yeah.
And actually, everyone has a subconscious bias. Me, you.
Yeah, we do.
We all have a bias. You know, if I was going down the high street just now and didn't know anyone, and I saw you guys sitting at Costa,
you'd avoid us.
Well, yeah, that's true. Well, with those, absolutely.
Spray with the links.
And I'm much more likely to sit next to you and talk to you because I have a subconscious bias that draws me towards you.
Yeah.
So there is an issue around subconscious bias, which is a totally natural human state. But the moment you're aware that you're the subconscious bias, you must do something about it. I think that's where the organisation, certainly the Metropolitan Police Services, has been, but is much, much, much better now. Much better. Okay. It's not perfect, though.
No, understood. As an individual, do you still, I mean, I know your family came from India and have connections there. Do you still have connections in terms of, do you go back there very often or not? Or
I don't go back as much as I'd like to. So back in the day, we used to go every 2 or 3 years as children.
Okay.
And loved it, absolutely loved it. I'd go back more, but being a police officer, getting a visa is honestly, I've got to give the name of my great grandfather's dog before they'll, you know, it's those sort of ridiculous hoops and hurdles you got to cross.
That's the Punjabi the visa scheme for India. For,
if you were to apply, you get a 6-month visa. If I want to apply, I need a letter from my boss, and then I'll only be given a 1-month visa, which is fine. But you know, just the whole
process is very onerous.
Pain in the neck.
Yeah.
And I applied for OCI, Overseas Citizen of Indian. Not entitled as a police officer.
Oh, really?
Cannot even apply when I've retired.
Okay.
You know, so I'm forever tainted as a cop. Go figure. But having said that, we are going to India in December, and we'll celebrate New Year. I'm really looking forward to it.
Good. So not the bad lieutenant, the bad superintendent.
A very good superintendent.
The bad. You haven't seen the film? Come on, you must see the bad lieutenant. Have you not?
I have, but he's properly bad.
He's probably bad. That's the Harvey Keitel one, not Nicolas Cage.
No. He's not bad in the Michael Jackson bad means good.
No, he's bad as in evil bad.
Yeah. So you're saying I'm the evil superintendent?
Well, I kind of did it the Michael Jackson way because I guess you're bad like that, not bad as in. I'm trying to get myself out of this now. I'll tell you, I'm not leaving this place without those handcuffs. No, easy.
They don't even work.
The keys in here. Hang on, they're not state of the art. They're not. You got the proper ones over there.
Like really. Your interviewing technique is definitely not state of the art.
Not state of the art. It's bad news, I'd imagine. That's it. Listen, I don't want to wish you any ill, but how would you like people? What would you like people to say about Raj Kholi in years to come?
That I made a difference.
Okay.
Positive difference. I think. That's all I strive for, is to make a positive difference in people's lives, and that's if they say I've done that, then I've done something.
Then you've achieved the end goal. Okay, brilliant. And what about advice-wise? What's the kind of best bit of advice you've ever been given?
It's always got to be from parents. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
That's a good one. That was a good one. And what about what's the most rubbish advice you've ever been?
Most rubbish advice. A friend will help you move. A real friend will help you move a body. That's really rubbish advice. So You could have that one for free.
I'll have that one for free. I don't know what it means, but it's anyway. So that's good. When I say a body, as in a sort of okay.
Get rid of the body.
Get rid of bury the evidence. Okay, fine. So, listen, you touched on it earlier on. You mentioned music, so I'm going to go back to that. It's about your personal life now. Can you remember what the first piece of music you actually bought, whether it was a record or a cassette?
It was a record. It was called Double Trouble by a group called Gillan.
Gillan, as in Ian Gillan, the Ian Gillan band?
As in Ian Gillan,
Ian
yes.
Gillan.
Well, that's impressive, Del. I take back what I think about you.
Well, listen,
you may well be a man of taste.
Well, the first band I ever saw...
your shirt doesn't suggest taste.
No, it doesn't. Not as my sort of my hairstyle. But look, it's... the first band I ever saw was Led Zeppelin, and so I know the Ian Gillan band, live in Nebworth. And my brothers and I...
one of my first gigs was Deep Purple at Nebworth in 1994.
Whoa, okay, So you're obviously a bit of a Richie Blackmore fan.
Absolutely,
so
you know your stuff.
Well, just like you've got two brothers you're very close to, Three Musketeers, I've got two brothers as well, and we're really close. We ran a disco back in the 80s, and it was a heavy rock disco.
Was it really?
It was.
So is Zeppelin your group?
So Zeppelin was my group, but so Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, those guys. But everything from we used to play stuff like Scorpions, UFO.
Right. Have you seen the Heart rendition of Stairway to Heaven?
As in the Heart that did Barracuda. No, I'm not.
Right. So Google it.
Okay.
They do a tribute to Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
And in the audience is Jimmy Page. and Robert Plant.
Robert Plant, okay.
I can't remember if the bass player was... No, the bass player was there.
Obviously John Bonham wasn't. He was dead by now. But
on drums is Jason Bonham.
Jason Bonham, Now,
Jason Bonham is wearing a bowler hat.
Right.
Like his dad used to.
Yeah.
But the very end, I won't spoil it for you. Watch it to the very end.
Okay.
The ending, honestly, I've got shivers down my spine.
I will watch it, but I must admit, when you've seen Stairway to Heaven done with 250,000 people in Nebworth, it takes a lot of beating.
It does, but you watch that and Robert Plant has tears in his eyes because of the end, how that song finishes. We're going
to have to talk music after this because I've got a few things to get through with you.
Yeah.
What's the...
Because you're so task-orientated,
I know. What's the last tune you listened to on either your phone or whatever it was? Go on.
Oh, last tune I listened to on my phone would have been Deep Purple's latest opus.
Blimey, you really are a Purple fan, aren't you? You really are a Purple fan.
I highly recommend Infinite, which will be their probably their last album. Probably.
Okay.
They're all in their mid to late 70s.
Well, they are. I mean, I saw Whitesnake not long ago, actually. So Coverdale.
Was that with Def Leppard?
With Def Leppard at Wembley.
Wembley. I couldn't get tickets to.
Yeah, so I saw Black Star Riders, Def Leppard, and it was Whitesnake with Coverdale.
Well, we're watching Def Leppard at Wembley in September, October?
Yeah,
they're coming back again, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm watching Queen at Wembley, but there you go. So, best gig you've ever seen? Deep Purple.
Deep Purple, Nebworth.
Nebworth, okay. Fine. What about movies-wise? Are you a big movie fan?
Love movies.
What's your favourite film? I know it's hard.
So I'll give you my top 5.
I knew you were
I will give you the Godfather trilogy.
Okay.
I'll give you Beetlejuice.
Okay. Interesting.
I will give you the Toy Story trilogy.
Okay.
No one can tell me that the ending of Toy Story 3 doesn't bring them to tears.
Okay.
If they're not in tears, then they're not human.
Okay.
The Toy Story trilogy. Shawshank Redemption.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then Gladiator, which I just think is just a fantastically filmed, thought out. It's got politics, violence, and intrigue, and all kind of brilliant movie. Those are my top 5, but a couple of trilogies in there.
There are. This is a way of sneaking in like about 15 films by putting trilogies in there and so on. So mine's the 39 Steps, The Seven Samurai, and 12 Angry Men. But they've got numbers in them. They've got numbers in them.
What's the other two?
So they're there's probably a Star Wars one in there somewhere, and some Shawshank Redemption, Green Mile always kind of figure in there, and Raging Bull. So
Raging Bull, yeah.
Raging Bull. Scarface, yeah, exactly. Meet My Little Friend. Take some tips from there. Well, do you do much in the way of getting to watch TV and stuff?
All the time.
All the time.
That's my unwind. So going to the gym or watching TV.
And then good on TV. What's good on TV? Is it all box sets and stuff?
So big fan of The Good Fight, which is the sequel to The Good Wife.
Oh, okay. All right.
Brilliant,
I haven't got around
TV.
to that yet. Okay. Did you watch Line of Duty?
I do.
Did you watch Line of Duty?
I watched Line of Duty. Massively entertaining, but massively frustrating at the same time. Because every fourth sentence is armed police. She's randomly shouting armed police at people, like they've got some sort of Tourette's. And so, but it's great.
I'd love Ted Hastings in that.
It's great. Yeah, it's great. The Walking Dead, I think, is brilliant. What else is there? Just now, there's some great stuff on just now. The Split. The Split, yeah. Which is
the BBC. You can't beat the BBC for drama. They do some really good stuff on there. Yeah. What about? Do you get a chance to do much in the way of cooking, or are you more of the eater or the cooker?
Have you seen the size of me?
Look, I'm not going to comment on that. It'd be people in glass houses. And all that.
I don't.
You don't cook.
I can potter around, but I'm no Hardeep Singh Kholi. That's for sure.
He's pretty good at this.
He's very good.
Yeah,
he's very good.
I figured he was. Look, we're talking about food.
Actually, Sanjeev's very good.
It's just you. Yeah, obviously, it wasn't just the comedy gene that skipped the cooking gene. Or just skipped this guy as well.
And his wife Fiona, they have their Christmas dinner every year. It's annual, believe it or not.
It's hard to believe that Christmas is once a year. I don't know. I mean,
and the cooking that they do, fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Well, we know where to
maybe I ought to get some cookbooks out.
You need to raise your game when it comes to that. Look, we're talking dinners and we're talking dinner parties. This is the point at which I sort of ask you, if you to invite at a dinner party, you get 3 guests, ideally not family, but people who you think were heroes, mentors, any age, dead or alive, and why would you invite them and why?
So in terms of professionally, the man that got me into the organisation and didn't know it until I told him 4 years ago was Lord Imbert, or Peter Imbert as he was then. He was the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police up until about 1994. So I think he was 89 to 94, thereabouts. And I saw him give a very eloquent, very human response to a Jerry Paxman type interview on Newsnight. And I thought, this man is really articulate, really eloquent. And I engaged with, I connected with him on the TV screen. And and he retired a long time ago. About 4 years ago, I saw him at a passing out parade at Hendon, and I said to one of my colleagues, he doesn't know, he inspired me to join the police. Okay, that's good. And my colleague said to me, well, go and tell him. And you know what? I went over and told him, this man, he's Lord Imbert now, he's done and seen everything, done everything. Very frail at this point, passed away sadly a year or so ago. And his eyes lit up when I told him.
That's great.
I was just one of probably tens of thousands of people that saw him and joined. But just inspiration, just the way he approached life.
So who else would you have?
I'd have Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali, okay.
Yeah, there's loads of phrases and things, but there was something about how he decided, I'm not going to Vietnam. So that's it. He cashed in his world championship. He was sort of destitute for a while because his morals he put ahead of his talent. Yeah. And he made that stand. And how many people can make that stand? For how many people that come before anything else? Of course. And then Guru Gobind Singh. Because, I brought up on his stories. He sacrificed his family.
Yeah, of course. The ultimate sacrifice.
And, he was a leader, not just of men and women on the battlefield, but morally, spiritually. What a leader. I mean, any of the gurus, Guru Nanak, Guru Tegh Bahadur, but Guru Gobind Singh, because he was the one that defined what our religion kind of looks and feels like today.
Yeah, of course.
So those 3.
And if you had to get somebody not so pious and brilliant to do your dishes and clear up after you, who would that be? I'm
going to go really left field here. About 3 weeks ago, I was off duty walking my 2 dogs, or 2 Labrador dogs. Going to my drive when this car drove past and the passenger shouted "Paki" at me. He would be doing the dishes, and I'll tell you why, because I'd want him to be exposed to the conversations myself, Lord Imbert, Muhammad Ali and Guru Gobind Singh, and for him to realise and understand there's more to life than just randomly shouting packets. As it happens, he doesn't know as a police officer. We know who he is.
Oh, wow.
And he's had the door knock. But my view is, I don't want to punish him.
Yeah.
I want to change him. I want him to rethink, reset his thinking. You know, you just don't drive down the road trying stuff like that.
No, so you don't. I mean, I must admit, I do get that. I go out for a run and so on. I mean, these days, because I sort of have my headphones are not in my ears, they're kind of like sort of bone conduction headphones, and as a result of that, you know, you do hear what's going on and so on. So let me ask you, there was also this bit about sort of a billboard outside somebody's, like,
great movie.
3 billboards is brilliant. If you had to put a billboard outside somebody's house, whose house or office would it be? And
I would put a billboard in every street, and it would be along the lines of, put your mobile phone down. And I'll tell you why. Your viewers, yourselves now, when you go out, the number of mums and dads you'll see pushing prams down streets on the phone to other people, and they should be talking to their baby. The same people are probably at home on their iPads playing Candy Crush, not talking to their child. And then and we're developing a whole load of issues around self-esteem and mental health because we're just not connecting. We're human beings at the end of the day. And I get the whole social media, mobile technology thing. But on everyone's street, I would say, put your phone down, connect with your child.
Brilliant, brilliant. Raj, we're really, really running out of time, but I do want to get a couple of fishbowl questions out to you. Some random, and they are very random, so please pick and read and answer honestly, as I know you will honestly.
Have you ever lied about your age, and for what reason?
Go on.
I've never lied about my age, and I'll tell you why, because I've looked this age since I was 15. So I used to have to take my passport onto the bus when I was 14, because they didn't believe I was entitled to half fare.
You telling me you never lied to get into a cinema to watch a film of like a AA film as it used to be? Oh, come on, everybody! I did that.
Actually, the classic Grand on I think is it Regent Street or Sucky Street?
Yeah.
Put it this way, it was a certain type of movie.
Yes.
I didn't lie about my age because I wasn't asked my age.
Yeah.
But I was 15 and it was an 18.
18. You know, I wanted to see Enter the Dragon, and I wasn't old enough, and I had on the biggest pair of platforms and massive flares, and I even actually a bit of boot polish here to try to put a moustache on, and I got in. So there you go. So just a couple more of these, and then we'll call it a wrap.
If you were asked to pick the 8th wonder of the world, what would you choose? The Golden Temple.
Golden Temple. Yeah. In fact, it'd be high up on there. I know we're biased slightly, but said somebody, once you've been there.
What is the dumbest way you have injured yourself? Did you try to embroider it a bit? What's the dumbest way of injuring myself? It's not a dumb way, but I'll tell you a story. I went to the doctor about 6 or 7 years ago. So I would have been about 41, 42, 43 at the time.
Yeah.
And I've got a groin injury.
Right.
And I said to the doctor, I've got a groin injury. He said, how do you think you've got it? I said to him, it was either a hernia or I might have pulled it playing football.
Right.
And he looked at me, looked at the computer, looked back at me and said, at your age? And I thought, you cheeky so-and-so, you're supposed to be encouraging me to so that's not the dumbest way, but that's, well, I suppose you could argue it's dumb in as much as, really at 43, 44, you shouldn't be throwing yourself around the gym after a bag of air when bits of you are already falling off, just warming up. Dumbest way.
But dumbest way, simple things. I mean, I actually remember stepping off a curb once and literally just twisting my ankle. And when you try to explain to people, they think, what, you just literally did that trying to walk off a pavement. How stupid are you? So,
well, as a parent, I've got scars from Lego and metallic...
Meccano.
Or Thomas the Tank Engine toys because obviously the kids decide that they're going to set a trap around the house. So I've injured myself on that.
This is Home Alone around the Kholi household.
Almost had my arm wrenched out taking the dogs for a walk yesterday. So actually, now that you mention it, I'm actually uninsurable.
So yeah, Frank Spencer in blue by the sound of it, accident prone. Raj, listen, it's been absolute pleasure talking to you today. We are
sadly
out of
the
time.
feeling's not mutual.
But I'm delighted. Anything to make your life horrible is my raison d'etre at the moment, and I've succeeded it. It's brilliant. But listen, all that remains is thank you, and to thank all of you for tuning in and watching Late Night Banter with me, Del Singh. I trust you all tune in next week for some more, and don't forget you can catch this and all the other shows at www.latenightbanter.com. Wajji Kata, Wajji Fadhi.